One way to observe in yourself what the fourth way calls identification is to realize that from the moment you get up in the morning, you're charging into the future. It's an incessant movement forward, sort of chasing after your idea of the day, how you expect it to unfold, what you want the result to be, what you hope to achieve, to get, to do. And the engine that's driving this forward motion, this constant forward momentum, is imagination. We imagine what the day will, how it will unfold. We imagine what we have to do. This is not creative envisioning of things that need to be done and trying to plan ahead in a practical way. There's sort of this vague imagination of how the day should go, what we have to look forward to and what we are not looking forward to. And this is in our mind, and this is this engine driving us. And the fuel in the engine is what the fourth way calls identification. It's like an electric current flowing through us, or gasoline in this engine that's always burning. And what happens is this engine and this fuel, this imagination and identification, they consume our awareness. They literally pull our awareness into them and churn awareness and consume awareness. And as a result, we're not consciously aware as we go through our day. There's a vague awareness, of course. We know we're living our life and going through our day, but it's not a conscious recognition. And we're not there as each moment unfolds. This tendency of identification is such a strong psychological habit in human beings, such that we think that things are more important to be doing and to get done than our own being, the presence of our own inner being, our internal silence of being. We think things are more important than this. And we believe, and we have developed the habit of believing, that it's better to get identified with everything. To get identified, to be identified, we think this is showing interest in things. We feel like this is an expression of our passion. We feel it's a sign of commitment, and we have this ability to endure, to push through things, to carry through. And we think that being identified in this way is going to produce a better result. We think it's going to actually solve our problems. And what we fail to see is that it is the problem. And it is the source of all of our other problems, most of which are just psychological. But they're the result of this imagination and our identification with how we imagine things will be, and then our identification with getting them done. And because of this habit, we have learned as human beings to trust this feeling of identification. We've learned to trust it more than we trust our own presence, the presence of our own being. And consequently, we put identification first, and we put being second. It's usually a far second, this internal silence of being in us, this what we really are at our core as awareness and pure being. This gets overshadowed, overlooked, displaced, and in many ways corrupted by identification. And identification is really the result of this conscious awareness in us falling out of itself and falling out of its own recognition of itself. This is what Eastern traditions call ignorance. Awareness losing knowledge of itself. That's what ignorance means, without knowledge. So awareness loses knowledge of itself, collapses into all of this thought and behavior and activity, and ends up being identified. And this is why few people really live in the moment. There's this idea we could live in the moment in a linear fashion, but usually what happens is people get identified with each moment and feel like I'm really in the moment. I'm in a groove in the moment. But what this idea is really meant to convey is not living in the moment as such. It means living as awareness. And it means living as awareness, or awareness existing for itself, without the handrails of future and past. This is a huge idea, to live without the handrails of the future and past. If we let go of those, there's nothing we're working toward. Yes, everything is moving in our life, in creation, but we're not existing for that. Instead, we're existing as awareness, and we're letting go of the handrail of the future, letting go of the handrail of the past, existing just as pure awareness as everything unfolds inside us and seemingly around us. But the seeming around us is really inside a larger expanse of awareness. And this is what living in the moment is meant to convey. But the moment really lives inside awareness. And this becomes clear when you let go the handrail of the future and you let go the handrail of the past. This is the razor's edge of presence itself, awareness itself. Awareness is what creates the present in that sense. And in truth, in awareness, there is no such thing as past, and there is no such thing as future. These do not exist for awareness. The past and the future are imagination. It may be a memory, yes, but when we indulge in it and link to it, attach to it, dwell on it, feel overwhelmed by it, it's because we are identified. And we're identified with a form of imagination about what is called the past, just as we're usually identified with a form of imagination about what we call the future. But in awareness itself, there is no such thing as past or future. And in terms of identification, consider, for example, what it would be like, instead of putting everything else in your life first, you put being first, to be present, to be here as awareness. That's first. That's always first. This is really this is the idea behind the first commandment in the Old Testament. To put being first and everything else second. And to, instead of doing things, for example, to get them done and to get them finished and to have them behind us, to do things for the sake of being while doing them. If we're washing the dishes, if we're walking across the room, if we're making our bed or brushing our teeth, or engaged in a meeting at work, whatever it is, instead of doing it to get it done and to be fulfilled by it, or to have it behind us, to have it over with, or to have achieved it as an accomplishment and a sense of fulfillment as an identity. Instead of all that, we're doing it to be here while it's being done. Because just as in awareness there's no such thing as past or future, in awareness itself, there is no such thing as finished.